Hi, welcome to Orchard Supply Hardware.
Hi, do you stock like 500 different types of shovels?
No, only the best ones.
And do you have a ginormous store that I need a GPS to get around in?
No, as you can see, our store is the perfect size.
Okay, then I'm also looking for sales associates who act all surprised when I ask for help.
Nope, our people love to help.
Wow, you sure there's a market for this?
Orchard Supply Hardware is actually fun to be around. Come see at the happiest grand opening ever, May 20th and 21st at our new Belmont store. Orchard, home, hardware, and happiness.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks. You're listening to Danny Tisdale, and you're about to listen to the Danny Tisdale Show on Harlem World Radio. I hope you're doing well on this 44-degree weather day, this Saturday in Harlem. I'll take this weather over the weather we had last week, which was snowy, stormy, windy, even though I hear we're going to get some wind this weekend. Not looking forward to it, but I am glad to be here, and we have a great couple of guests that we're going to speak to today about Harlem and its history. And before we get started, we do what we usually do, which is to tell you some of the things that are trending on our website. And the website is harlemworldmag.com. We posted something earlier in the week about the NYPD, who will start ticketing Harlemites for sleeping on the subway. Wow. If that was me, I would probably have a number of tickets right now. We also, and we might want to speak to one of our guests about this gentleman. We posted a biography on Dr. Lewis Thompson Wright, who was head of Harlem Hospital. I think his last year there was in the 50s, and again, it's some of that great Harlem history we love to talk about. We also want to mention that Miss Keith, Naima Keith, is a curator at the Studio Museum who is moving from the Studio Museum to Los Angeles. Check out the article, should be nice. And also a new post by our new relationship diva, and that's Debaria, who is responding to a letter regarding passionate love versus romantic love. It's great stuff. Hope you like it. If you do, hit us up and let us know with a comment about how you do like it. And you can check us out at twitter.com/HWMag or on Facebook at facebook.com/HWMag. And, of course, we're talking about Dr. Lewis Thompson Wright, who will be on our Facebook page, and that's our Harlem History Facebook page. And you can find it by just going to Facebook and putting in Harlem History, and you can check it out and find out more about it. And now for the part that I always love and the part that we love to talk about the most, and that's our great guest that we have on the Danny Tisdale Show, and the guest that especially we have today as we come into the first week of Black History Month. And this is Black History Month in Harlem, as we discuss the firsthand story of the life-saving surgery on Dr. Martin Luther King, who was here in Harlem in the 1950s. And we're going to speak to Goldie Brangman, who was one of the nurses that was at the operating table when Mr. King was stabbed, and he was here in Harlem autographing copies of his first book, and that was September of 1958. Goldie Brangman is a retired certified registered nurse. She was founder and program director of Harlem Hospital. Anesthetist, thank you. And she, as you can hear, is there to correct me. I'm can't wait to talk to her. She's also won the Helen Lamb Outstanding Educator Award. Ms. Brangman held leadership positions at state and national level, serving as president of New York State Association of Nurse Anesthetists and as the first African American president of the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists. She has served for years in the New York and Hawaii chapters of the American Red Cross and has won prestigious coveted awards for her outstanding accomplishments. She is also part of the operating team, as I mentioned, that worked on Dr. Martin Luther King here in Harlem in 1958. And we also have Evan Koch, who's on the line and who is also a certified registered nurse anesthetist. And Evan has held professional positions on the board of California and Idaho Associations of Nurse Anesthetists and the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists. I am completely destroying, I know, some of the bios, and I'm sure they will correct me as we get into the interview. He also serves as a manuscript reviewer of the AANA Journal Editorial Committee. Evan's interest in history of nurses has led him to organize a formal archival program at AANA. He has published numerous articles and chapters regarding the history and has been approached by the AANA about authoring a second edition of the book, Watchful Care, History of America's Nurse Anesthetists. Evan co-authored with Ms. Brangman an article in the AANA Journal titled Goldie Brangman Remembers the Operation to Save Dr. King. The article documents Ms. Brangman's first-hand recollection of the life-saving surgery of Dr. Martin Luther King. Welcome to you both as I catch my breath, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you for both being on the show, and I really want to thank you for taking your time to be here with me. And Ms. Brangman, I wanted to start with you. I know you've probably talked about the experience with Dr. King and Harlem Hospital many, many times. Are there any memories about that situation that stand out in your mind?
No, other than the fact that a lot of time was wasted while they argued whether to take them down to Bellevue or to Kings County rather than Harlem. It ended up going to Harlem, which made sense because they were there. But,
so were they arguing about the fact that one was closer than the other, or just what was the argument?
Well, they didn't want to take them to the Black Hospital. They wanted to take them down to Kings County or to someplace, Bellevue, both of which were white.
So how long had you been working in Harlem Hospital at that time? We're talking about 1958.
Oh, about almost 20 years.
Oh, really?
I went there in 1940, I think, when I first took my nursing, and I stayed there.
And where were you originally from? Where were you born?
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Okay. So you, for the most part, just came over the water to Harlem to work. Did you live in Harlem too, or did you just bounce back and forth to New Jersey?
Well, yeah, I went back and forth to New Jersey, but mainly just at Harlem.
Okay. So you ended up moving to Harlem?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Koch, I know you helped write the story, Goldie Brangman Remembers the Operation of Dr. King. What do you remember in the collaboration of the article and the article itself that stands out in your mind?
Well, thank you, Danny. May I just first say thank you very much for your interest in this, and also thank you for attempting to pronounce the word anesthetist. It's a mouthful.
I'm trying.
And I know that I'm speaking on behalf of all of America's nurse anesthetists by saying thank you for saying it right. You haven't garbled it.
I'm trying. Thank you.
To answer your question, I was prompted to write this article by an obituary for a surgeon by the name of John Cordes, whose obituary appeared in the New York Times about a year and a half ago, and it described the incident that we're talking about today. In 1958, Dr. King was in New York, and he was in fact stabbed during a book signing at a department store by a crazed woman. and she drove a 7-inch sharpened letter opener right through his breastbone, and the tip of the thing was lodged between his heart and one of the major arteries that comes in and out of the heart. And he was taken first right away, actually, to Harlem Hospital, where he was intercepted by the governor of New York, who was Abel Harriman. And Harriman was in the midst of a re-election campaign, and he didn't want King to die on his watch. So he was perplexed as to whether to allow King to have surgery at Harlem Hospital, which, as Goldie pointed out, was viewed as a second-rate hospital, or whether he should order that King be transferred to Columbia Presbyterian or one of the other major hospitals. But as Goldie pointed out to me in one of our interviews, they were very, very adept at handling trauma surgery at Harlem Hospital. In fact, the residents from Columbia Presbyterian and the other major hospitals would come to Harlem just to learn to do trauma surgery. And so they were quite ready to accept Dr. King. And in fact, as the story played out, they did perform the operation successfully.
Well, and we are, as Harlemites and Americans and the world are appreciative, certainly, of that. And thank you for, explaining what had happened to him. And we've posted a couple of stories regarding the incident on the site harlemworldmag.com, and that'll be linked to this conversation we're having when we post it over the next couple of hours after the conversation. And I wanted to come back to Ms. Brangman and ask her, of course, I've done some research and understand what an anesthetist, of course, Mr. Koch gives me my props, and then, of course, I destroy the name. But can you define for us what exactly, Ms. Brangman, you did during that surgery with Dr. King?
Well,
what was your job?
It was a matter of just keep him under anesthesia or asleep so that the doctors could do their surgery without him moving. So I put it down,
how long did the surgery take?
I don't remember exactly how long the operation took. It was a long time.
So I wanted to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I just wanted to make sure that I have, to me anyway, age is one of those things, it's nothing but a number. But do I understand it correctly? You're 94 or 98 years old?
98.
98. Well,
yes.
Congratulations to you, and I hope I can, not literally walk in your shoes, but to walk in your shoes and live the long, productive life that you have. I also wanted to ask you, we've heard so much about Dr. King, about the kind of person he was, warm, engaging. Not unless it's some engagement with law enforcement. He always seems to have a warm smile on his face. What was your impression of him during the time that you were with him?
He was a very friendly, gracious, very appreciative of saying thank you every other word for the least little thing that you did for him. He's a very nice man.
That's great to hear, because I know sometimes we hear so much about him, and sometimes you don't know if it's from the media branding or rather it's true, and so it's good to hear that.
No, he was very nice to all of us, very courteous, very appreciative. Thanks us for everything we did.
And so what was going on in the room? Was it chaotic during the surgery?
Well, it was definitely chaotic. It was mainly keeping people out of the room. You know, you don't need an operating room with 20 people climbing all over the table and whatever. You can't even give your attention to the patient. So it's mainly a matter of keeping people out of the room and just keeping the people in there that you needed to be, the anesthetists, the surgeons at the head of the table, and the nurses who had to circulate.
Yeah, I was imagining if that was, today, I could imagine what the media would be trying to do to get photographs, to interview you before the surgery, during the surgery, after the surgery.
And after the surgery, yes.
Yeah,
well,
I could just.
Fortunately, we could put them out and lock the doors and just go out and do the surgery.
Oh, that's and I wanted to take a quick station ID and let our listeners know they're listening to Harlem World Radio podcast, and they can check us out on harlemworldmag.com, also on Twitter at twitter.com/HWMag, and Facebook at facebook.com/HWMag. And Ms. Brangman, we are already, believe it or not, at the halfway point, and I have just really so many questions to ask you, and usually in the second half I like to kind of more of a reflection on the those I'm interviewing. Do you have any tips, whether it's about profession or life, as you think back over your 98 years, for some of our listeners who, like me, want to follow in your productive footsteps?
Well, I would say to just tell it as it is. If you make up things, you're going to forget what you made up, and you find yourself in a bind because you can't remember what you told them. So if you tell it just the facts, this is going on right now. This is the way it is, and let it go at that, and you don't get into any trouble.
That might be hard for some people, but I think that's great advice. But
I know it's going to be hard for some people. Most people like to elaborate and add this little bit of this, a little bit of that, so far that they can't tell the truth from the distruth.
Well, I also wanted to ask you. Sometimes we might look back and say, it'd be great to change this. It would be great if I did that. Are there any things? They talk about a bucket list. Do you have any things that you may have wanted to do or still want to do? Hello?
Danny, this is Evan. I think I can answer that question on behalf of Goldie. When I asked her the same question about a year ago when we were formulating this article, and she told me that she wants to live to be at least 104 because that's how long her second husband lived.
Oh. Well, something tells me from the sound of your voice, Ms. Brangman, that you're definitely going to do that and probably do more of that. Ms. Brangman, are you back on the line? Oh, we may have hopefully lost her, and hopefully she'll call back. Evan, I wanted to ask you, Harlem Hospital has a reputation of doing great work, and the situation with Dr. King is one of those examples. Is
right.
Harlem Hospital unique, or is this typical of the kind of work that nurses are doing in hospitals all across the nation?
No, Harlem Hospital isn't unique, I would have to say, because emergency wasn't just night and afternoon. It was all day long. We were
all day long.
The hospital for emergencies all day long, 24 hours around the clock. Every case was an emergency. So
Miss? I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, is that the norm for hospitals, or is that
no, it's not
the way
the
Harlem
normal
Hospital is?
Hospitals ordinarily have elective things that come in that need to be done, and so on and so forth. And then maybe once in a while during the day and the afternoon and night, they may have a emergency. We had emergency 24 hours around the clock. The people had nothing better to do than slice up each other, cut up each other, shoot up each other, and bring them into Harlem, and patch them up, and send them back out, and then go through the same thing all over again.
Ms. Brangman, I think you should say what's on your mind. Don't hold back any. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
But when they said emergency hospital, it was an emergency hospital. Every case was an emergency. Every single case was an emergency.
Has that changed, or is it still the same way?
I think it's sort of kind of simmered down a little now. We still get most of the emergencies. Because, I don't know, that people just seem to fight with each other and cut each other and shoot each other. And it's always happening around the clock. There's no particular time for it to happen. It just happens every hour on the hour. Every hour.
The wonderful human condition.
Yes, definitely.
Mr. Koch, I know that you wrote a article, obviously, with Ms. Brangman. Is there any other points I might have missed or that you want our listeners to be aware of that maybe I haven't mentioned or we haven't discussed?
Well, thank you. You asked a moment ago if the work at Harlem Hospital is typical of what nurse anesthetists do across the country. And I think it's fair to say that nurse anesthesia is probably what they call the best-kept secret in medicine. Most of the anesthesia in this country is given by nurse anesthetists, and that's been historically true, and it remains true. We work in every setting where anesthetics are given, in every population group, and I think the argument could be made that we work disproportionately in underserved communities, both in urban and rural settings.
Well, it sounds like you've just described our silent heroes and sheroes because, obviously you're doing work that, is done behind the scenes. Doctors usually get the credit, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the doctors, but I can imagine the work that you're doing. And I thought, well, could I work that job if I'm scared of blood? Am I missing the first requirement to sign up for the job if I'm afraid of blood, or is this just
not really?
To be able to see blood.
I don't think fear of blood has anything to do with it. The point of it is you get to be ready to sign up to be there when the patient needs you, and for as long as the patient needs you. We have gone like 6 or 8 hours out.
Danny, the truth is that not much blood is lost during surgery, but it does help if you don't faint at the sight of blood.
So I might be in trouble.
You might.
I guess I better stick to media. It looks like we disconnected, sadly, with Ms. Brangman, so we'll continue. And I wanted, we're down to, believe it or not, our last few minutes here, and I wanted to ask you first if you have any tips for some of our young listeners out there who would like to get into the profession. What would you suggest they do, Evan?
Nurse anesthesia is a fabulous profession. It's enormously gratifying, and they will. A teenager or a young adult would have no trouble finding a nurse anesthetist who would be willing to job shadow or mentor them.
I see.
The simplest way to do that would be to visit the website of the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists, AANA.com.
Oh, you're back. Okay. Continue, Mr. Koch.
What I was saying is that the simplest way for a young adult or a teenager to to learn about nurse anesthesia would be to go to aana.com. That's the website of the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists. And pursue it. Look around on the website for links to how to become a nurse anesthetist.
Fantastic. Ms. Brangman, I was just asking Mr. Koch, how in any inspiring words for some of our listeners out there. I said young listeners out there. I'm going to take that back because I think it probably doesn't matter whether, what age they are. Do you have any tips for someone listening out there who might want to follow in getting into the profession?
Well, not really tips. I just would say that it is a challenging line of work. If you really want to be kept on your toes all the time and interested in what's happening, and it never changes. I mean, it's ever-changing. That's what I should say. It's ever-changing. You never know what you're going to be up against when you go on duty. You don't know what you're going to get that day. Depends upon how people are feeling and who's out there. So it's a wonderful, challenging job.
Excuse me. It sounds like it, and you're getting me choked up over here. Excuse me. We're down to, believe it or not, our last 4 minutes, and I wanted to ask each of you, obviously not your personal contact information, but if there's an email address or better yet, a website that some of our listeners can go to and that we can post on with the link to the radio show here, Ms. Brangman or Evan, any contact information where our listeners can find out more about you and your work?
That's a good question. I would again refer you to the aana.com, the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists. To be honest with you, I'm looking at it right now, and the link for history of anesthesia is under news and journal, and you scroll down to. It's under the resources link, and you scroll down to the archives library sublink, and that takes you to a page all about the history of anesthesia. And
fantastic.
For listeners who might be interested in becoming a nurse anesthetist, the same website would provide them with that information.
Thank you so much. Ms. Brangman, any links? What we're also going to do, just to let you know, that we're going to post this on the website in probably about 2 or 3 hours with other links and the link that, Evan, you mentioned, so our listeners could get all linked up with the show, with, going to the AANA website and others. So they'll be able to find out more about you as they check out the link. Last but not least, Ms. Brangman, do you have a favorite place in Harlem? Is there, or past or present, a favorite place in Harlem? This is the question we always love to ask our those we interview as our last question. You have a favorite place in Harlem? Hello? Evan?
Yeah, I'm here. If you're asking me about a favorite place in Harlem, you're asking the wrong guy. I have only been to Harlem about twice in my life, but I remember, my memory, Danny, is that my mom's youngest sister had a rent-controlled apartment on 120th and Columbus Avenue for decades, and I remember going there as a child and seeing stacks and stacks of records dating back to like the 1940s of some of the great jazz musicians.
Wow.
And very fond memories of it. But as far as another special place to go, I can't help you there.
Well, my
Yes.
special place would be Wells Restaurant in Harlem.
Oh, fantastic!
They had chickens and waffles. Very good.
You're getting me hungry, Miss Brangman. So
right. Very, very good.
I want to thank you. We're down to our last few seconds. Thank you for being on the show. Look forward to speaking to you. Thank you again.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Both of you.
Goldie, are you there?
Hello?
Hi, welcome to Orchard Supply Hardware.
Hi, do you stock like 500 different types of shovels?
No, only the best ones.
And do you have a ginormous store that I need a GPS to get around in?
No, as you can see, our store is the perfect size.
Okay, then I'm also looking for sales associates who act all surprised when I ask for help.
Nope, our people love to help.
Wow, you sure there's a market for this?
Orchard Supply Hardware is actually fun to be around. Come see at the happiest grand opening ever, May 20th and 21st at our new Belmont store. Orchard, home, hardware, and happiness.
Hi, welcome to Orchard Supply Hardware.
Yeah, hi. Can you fix my screen door?
Yeah, that's what our workbench is for.
Cut some glass?
Yes.
Pipe?
Yep.
Do you deliver stuff?
Sure, anything you can't fit in your car.
Do you set up grills?
We do.
Can you give me a neck massage?
We're a hardware and garden store.
Can you give me a neck massage in my garden?
Well...
Orchard Supply Hardware can help with all sorts of chores. Come see at the happiest grand opening ever, May 20th and 21st at our new Belmont store. Orchard, home, hardware, and happiness.